Hey everyone, man, this is Eric back in auto replay, and I'm trying a different landscape orientation view versus the portrait that I did in the live. So we're gonna see how this works. This may be a little bit better camera view, but I'm just telling some stories from back in the day before I did YouTube, when I had buddies that had a car dealer's license. They would go to the auction and they would buy cars, the used cars, and bring them back to the shop. And some of them be good and some of them be, inoperable, and I want to tell about this. It was a Lexus. It was a 1995, I think it was, or 96, somewhere around there. And one of the sales guys, he went to the auction, and what they started doing, they were trying something new. They wanted to buy inop cars. And if you ever go to the auction, you got different grade of cars. You got some that run red light, it's just as is. You got some that are green light, that I think they give you like a 3-day warranty with it. Then they have what's called an inop. These are just basically, they just put a picture up. They don't run, drive, start, anything like that. They just drop them off like they're going to the junkyard or something like that. So they went and bought 2 cars, but one of them was a Lexus. It was like a 94, 95, 96, might have been 95, something like that. And they got it towed back to the shop. So they came in and then they told me about it, and they're like, man, I bet you Eric can fix it, because the body looked good, the interior looked good. It just didn't just crank up and do anything. And I think when they brought it to me, it didn't run. That's what it was. They pulled it to the back of the shop, and I think it tried to, I'm trying to think, what happened was they turned the key, or they gave me the key, something like that. And what I noticed was the speedometer or the odometer, I can't remember which one of the gauges, it whenever you go to crank a car, I believe the odometer is supposed to go up, right? And what it was doing like erratic. It was like up and down. It might have been the speedometer. It was something erratic about it. And I noticed that when I was looking at the gauge. I was like, yeah, that makes me think that you got a bad ECU. Back in those days, there were ECUs, back in the 90s. So, before you got to like 2000 and stuff like that. So, I told him, I was like, don't worry about it. I'll go on eBay, I'll get the ECU, and then we'll swap it out, because it was an easy swap at that time. You didn't have to worry about programming VINs and all this and that. You just swap computers and it would just work, right? That's the beauty about the older cars. It wasn't all programmed to VIN and stuff like that. And they have all these computers, just like an engine computer, right? So I go on eBay, and the listing that I ended up purchasing, the engine computer, the ECU is an engine controlled unit, engine computer unit, something like that. It controls the way that the engine runs, right? And it knows how much air it's getting, how much fuel to give it, spark timing, all that stuff, right? All the little sensors that they started putting in on with the OBD2 stuff is, this computer control, right? So I go into eBay and I see listings out in California, and it says ECU for this model, right? It says for 90, I gotta look up exactly which one it is, but it's like 95, 96, 97. I think we had 96. So I was like, oh, this should work perfectly. It should be plug and play, right? No problem. So, place the order, it gets shipped to the shop. I get the package, like 4 or 5 days later, open up, like, great, man, the ECU's here, right? So I'm like, this is perfect, man. So at that time, my buddy Lewis, he used to go to the shop with me, and we used to tinker with cars and stuff like that. So we went to go put the ECU in, and that car, what you would do would go ahead and on the passenger front, on the inside door trim, or the kick panel they call it, where your feet are, there's a little plastic panel down there, and that's, you take that off and the ECU is right there, it's just bolted in. So you unbolt it. Of course you disconnect the battery first, and then I think the way those were, it took a bolt or like a little clip or something, you unplug it. So what I did, I went ahead and plugged a new one in. And I get the key, man, and this car is outside the shop, right? It hasn't been pulled all the way into the shop yet. They just dropped it off outside, like right outside the roll-up door. and there's a guy working on inside, a different tech, you know, a different guy. We should go there and tinker with cars, right? He used to work at a shop, and he was on the lift doing like a brake job or something like that. And I go to crank this car up, man, and like, dude, I crank it up, it starts running. I mean, running, like, and all this white smoke just pouring out like a pure cloud. And the guy inside, he's like, hey man, looks like you got a blown head gasket or something like that. So I, you know, the car's running. I go out, I open up the driver's door, you know, 'cause I'm sitting there like just seeing it run. I go to the back where the tail light is, looking at this white smoke. I mean, pure white cloud smoke, like pure white. And I'm just kind of smelling my nose, just happy to take a whiff, and it's like, it smells like gas more than water. You know what I mean? It's like, I was like, dude, man, I don't know if it's a head gasket. I was like, it smelled like gas, right? So I was like, something's not right here. So I cut it off, and me and my buddy Lewis, we go inside the shop office, and I was like, let's look at something, because I was like, I think there's something off, right? Because even though the ECU fit, I'm like, man, something's just not quite right. So I pulled up the actual year of manufacture for that particular ECU that I bought. The one that I bought was for 95. The car was 96. And at that time, you know, we had a computer, so I did a Google search. I pulled up the wiring schematics for 96, and I pulled up the wiring schematics for 95, right? And what I found, the only difference, I went by the schematics, and I could probably show you if I put it on the screen, but I'm not gonna do that right now. It shows the plug of the ECU with like, you know, 30 something wires going to the computer and where they go and whatnot. And basically the only difference was there's two wires, and the two wires whenever you go to start a car, there's what they have, like an open loop and a closed loop, right? When you start a car in this code, I can't remember which one's open and closed, but these two wires determine which state it would be in. So when you go to start a car in this code, the engine's code, it uses more gas to get it running and raises the idle up. And then eventually after like a minute or so, it idles down. So you might, at first you might be at 1500 RPM, then eventually it goes down to like 800, 900 RPM, depending on the engine you got. And then, you know, from that point on, it's like, it goes from one loop to the next loop. And I noticed that so back to the story, there's my daughter right there. I was watching her, she wanted a little help on the monkey bars. Yeah, you wanna say hi?
Hi.
Hey everyone. Yeah, I was talking some old stories from when I used to work on cars with buddies and how we used to fix cars and stuff like that. So took a little intermission break.
But Daddy, you know I'm going to climb on the slide, but I can do it.
Oh
I
yeah.
know how to slide down.
Yeah, you can climb up there.
Yeah, but I need to keep going.
Okay.
Don't get frustrated.
Okay. Well, go ahead. You keep going. I'm just gonna finish this story real quick about how we fix this car.
Let's get started. Okay, you go over there so I can start the video.
Okay.
We'll see it.
Yeah. Well, let me finish this story real quick. It's
Daddy!
3 minutes with that.
Daddy.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do it. There you go.
So yeah, that's Ariana. She's growing up, man. So back to the story. So we're sitting in the office, and I went wire by wire, by each wire that was connected to the ECU for 95 versus the one for 96, and they're all the same besides two wires, like 17, 18, something like that, right? So I noticed that, you know, one says like closed loop, one says open loop, something like that. I was like, okay, we need to swap these two wires, because they gave me an ECU for 95, even though it plugs and play, the wiring in the car is different, you know. So what I did, we cut the wires, we swapped them, and we connected them up, and cut the car on. Car ran like a dream, man. I mean, we went and took it out for a little ride, and that Lexus, dude, was pure luxury, man. Car was in mint condition, you know. The only thing just didn't run because the ECU died. And then we fixed the ECU. I think we probably changed the engine oil or went through the little maintenance of it that it needed. But the suspension, it rode like a cloud, dude. It was perfect. And we ended up selling that car, you know, probably made like $2,000 pretty quick off of just replacing the ECU and finding, well, first you had to find, well, I didn't have the right year, but we found the ECU that worked for a reasonable price and fixed the wiring and worked like a dream. So, you know, the older cars, man, you could do stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like new cars, you got to have all this computer programming and stuff like that. But, you know, I'm trying to think of another good video for another story where we fixed the car. And it's pretty neat how we saved a lot of time and a lot of money, made some money and whatnot. I do have one with a Dodge Stratus RT that I bought. That'd be the next one. I gotta look it up on my DMV what year it was. I can't remember exactly. It might have been like a 90 something. But
here I am, Daddy. I'm all done with my video.
All right, let's go.